in reality, they may have been $100,000 or $200,000 business, but on taxes, white paper right, green paper right.
Okay, then.
Okay, so on the white
the taxes,
paper,
what you do? Write everything out. Okay.
And again, when you think about, it's like the miseducation of. We're going to just say of.
Yeah.
We have historically and culturally been miseducated.
Okay.
So even though we have various professionals that are in our space, they are in fact advising their clients in the wrong manner.
Between May 2020 and December 2021, I have secured $8,121,009.35 in legitimate funding for Black and minority-owned businesses. My name is Talibah Bayles, and I'm the host of the Black and Bankable podcast. Effective immediately, I am coming for more for the community.
Hello and welcome to the Black and Bankable podcast. I am so excited to have you here with me again today. If you have not already, I encourage you to make sure you've checked out all the other episodes, because when I tell you this channel is full of gems for your business, that's what I mean. So today's episode, I am joined by Dr. Kim Evans. She is the Senior Vice President and Managing Director of Trufund, which is CDFI. And we're going to learn all about what a CDFI is in this episode. But I am especially excited to have Kim here because we are right in the middle still of National Women's Business Month. So we are going to be talking about all the awesome initiatives that Trufund has, as well as getting our women businesses in some shape, getting us bankable in this episode. So I'm going to jump right into it. Kim.
Hello.
Let me see. Y'all, how long have we known each other? We have known each other for a couple of years, and I feel like this is the first time we actually met.
It is. So we met during COVID.
Yes.
So there's been a lot of virtual connect.
Exactly.
But there's definitely that connectivity there. So it's great to meet you in person.
Yes. And I'm so excited to have Trufund represented, and certainly we're going to learn so much about CDFIs. And the reason why, y'all, I wanted to have Kim on to break down CDFIs is because if you aren't already aware of what a CDFI is, a lot of folks get caught in the weeds between banking, CDFIs. I don't have a banking relationship. And if we're going to be talking about bankable, then you need to know that a CDFI is absolutely an option that you really should be exploring when it comes to unlocking access to knowledge, to technical assistance, as well as to the money, which I know everybody wants to get access to. And in my opinion, Trufund is one of those CDFIs that is getting it right. And the other reason why Trufund is going to be represented here is because I also get the question of what does it look like? What does COVID, post-COVID, I really don't even feel comfortable saying post-COVID because we're still in the middle of it. But a lot of times I am asked, what does it look like? What does COVID, post-COVID, pre-COVID, whatever you want to call it, funding look like for businesses, particularly for the businesses that I work with, which are Black and women-owned businesses. And as you've heard me say in previous episodes, it is having your financial ish together, right? Period. It's no way around it. And since it's no way around it, that's why we are going to outline exactly what that means. But most importantly, from a federal perspective, as someone who watches what Congress does and involved in organizations, there is the attention on CDFIs when it comes to financing, making sure that they have the capacity needed to really get out here in the streets, as you'll see Trufund is doing actively to help business owners where they are. And so that's why we're focusing on CDFIs today, because what funding looks like is places, CDFI, technical experience, who's out in the streets, typically at CDFIs. So Kim is going to give us some great insight into this whole entire process. So I want to make sure that you have your notebooks, your laptops, however you keep your notes. I want you to get them ready, and I want to make sure that you share it with your business bestie, because we are here to really unlock some access.
Yes.
So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into questions for Dr. Evans here. Kim, please share with me how you started working for Trufund, what attracted you to start working in Trufund, and particularly with small businesses.
So I have been in small business development the entirety of my career, and really longer than my career starting. And so when I think about my origin story, I can remember being a little girl watching my entrepreneurial grandfather and my entrepreneurial father. So I'm third generation entrepreneur here. And when I think back to the days where on my grandfather's clothing route, this is, we're not going to age myself, but but this is back in, let's just say, the 80s, and I was a young girl, just watching the work ethic and the heart and the passion of that entrepreneurial space, really being devoted to serving the community and really meeting a need. So, when you think about entrepreneurship, that's essentially what entrepreneurship is. You identify a need that's in your community and you meet that need and you get out there. And so my grandfather started a clothing route. And so this was back in the days before there was just, I'm going to take my clothes to the cleaners. He actually went around to the neighbors, picked up their clothing, took them. Everything was clean. And I would ride on the truck with him. And just to see that level of engagement. But and then to say fast forward to my father, who also was raised in that same space. And then in addition, the family had a strawberry farm. So we are from Louisiana. If you think about, the New Orleans area, Ponchatoula, which is just outside of New Orleans, known for strawberries. So a strawberry farmer. My dad telling me the stories of how he was on his father's farm, out picking strawberries. And then he kind of picked up that entrepreneurial spirit and went on to become a State Farm insurance agent. Which, as we know, those are full entrepreneurial ventures. They're independently owned. And so my first job my first real job was actually in my father's State Farm insurance agency. But even before then, he had a consulting firm where he worked with local politicians and did their management. And so he coined me his junior campaign manager. So on the trails, sitting in the CEO seat then. He did allow me a lot of exposure, never kept me out of various meetings, so I was able to see that. But on the other side of that, you saw not only just from my grandfather and father's perspective, but as they were working and supporting entrepreneurs in the communities, we also saw some of the disparities in the access to different things. And so as I kind of took on that entrepreneurial spirit, I think before I even knew how to spell entrepreneur, starting various businesses. And, for sake of time, I'm not going to get into the grunt of the various businesses that I started as a child. But after finishing school in political science, my first job out of college at Xavier was in the economic development department. And so when I think about this space, it really chose me because when I say the entirety of my career has been in this space, business development, small business development, community economic development, that was that first real job. And so again, that gave me an opportunity to see from the policy side, and from the government perspective. But then you get caught up in bureaucracy. There are certain things that you see in the communities that are needs, and you're looking for opportunities to solve those needs. But again, there's bureaucracy. So there's limitations to what you really can do. And so for me, always having been a person that's like, okay, you gonna tell me no, but that means nothing.
Right.
It means absolutely
no
nothing.
Means yes.
Right. It means maybe not right now, but I'm going to figure a way. So I was like, okay, there's got to be a better way to really meet the needs of the community. And so I started just doing some research on my own. At that time, when we think about 20 years ago, I didn't know either, that CDFIs existed or what a CDFI was. But in that space of really having the desire desire to support the community, seeing the small business needs, and also seeing the limitations of the government. And again, this is at the local level. But even in that position at the local level, I had a lot of interface at the state level in Louisiana. So matriculated on to Louisiana Economic Development, also still found, okay, this is not the space for, I'm somewhat known. My CEO always jokingly shares with me and others, that I'm his employee that's gonna, push the envelope and really push back. And so that was no different then. And so when you think about, in the state government level, it's like, okay, this is not necessarily the space for the disruptor.
Okay.
We're gonna call it disruptor,
right?
Because it's the individual that wants to really not accept the status quo as this is how it is. It's find the yes in the midst of it all. And so I moved on to work, do a stint after Hurricane Katrina. Again, the disparities, the disparate situations of small business owners really hit home probably for the first time, even though I'd had that path of experience in it. But to see the city go under and to try to rebuild and recoup those business owners, and to have so many business owners with so much federal money that was available to them not be able to access it still. And then to really think about, okay, why is this the case? So I'm the why. I'm like, I need to understand the why versus just kind of taking those steps. And so in looking at the why, it is the hard conversations that you have to have with CEOs or business owners, entrepreneurs. Is a part of it is it could be misguided information. You just don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But the reality and the facts are it's because of the white paper. And the reason why I use the term white paper, because a former boss of mine said, if you get your white paper right, your green paper will be right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, then. I love it. I love it.
So just looking at the why, it was the lack of financial acumen. It was the lack of business acumen. The financial statements were, if they existed, if they had financial statements, they weren't up to par with, say, peer organizations or peer small business owners. The understanding of, what are these documents saying about your business? So it's one thing to even have someone else construct your P&L or your balance sheet, your cash flow. But as the CEO, as the business owner, and as the entrepreneur, do you understand what these numbers are saying about your business and how these documents essentially can position your business to thrive or to falter? In the sense of, you have an opportunity and you need access to capital, any banker, CDFI or otherwise, is going to first take a look at that documentation, and that documentation is going to tell a story. Right. So, the long of the short to your answer is, it has always, the life chose me, the work chose me, and the passion grew as I saw those disparities. And I always seek to find the why to get to the yes. Right. And so even as we see it now, there are still disparate situations. I'm always looking for, as a CDFI, as a leader in Trufund, how do I best represent my communities? And if I see a problem, not just accepting the problem as the status quo, but really looking for, how do we get these businesses to the yes? Right. How do we get them the resources that they need? And how do we make sure that they're ready to access the resources once the resources come down?
So there was a lot to unpack there. The first thing that I think of, particularly the third generation entrepreneurship for you, were either of those businesses self-funded? Like, was your grandfather or was your father?
100%.
Yeah, and that's really what I wanted to pull out. Because like my grandfather, as everyone knows, had a concrete business. My father had office supply company. And I know my grandfather's was all self-funded. And I have to pull that out because we know that, I think it just runs in our DNA as Black folks, as minority folks, as women. What comes in your DNA is, I'm going to do this. I have decided that I want this to be my business. Right. And so therefore, since I decided, I'm going to make it happen. You know what I mean? And so we go into this, choosing this passion with that accountability that is up to me for this to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have a lot of different mindsets that come into play with that, in the sense that, you know, if it is appearing to be too hard, or I like how you said the why, identifying the pathway. If that why is, you're just not going to get the money, or why would these people give me the money, or, you know, you're not going to qualify for the money because you don't have good credit, or you're not going to qualify because you don't have financial statements. I think people see that why and tune out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to CDFIs, I think that CDFIs are in such a unique position because you guys are more out on the streets, like I say. You know what I mean? You were just talking about before this episode, where all have you been in the last week? You know, New York, Atlanta, you're going somewhere. I mean, so talk to me about why you are so visible, why Trufund is so visible in the things that you're doing.
So I want to, if I can, take us a step back just to make sure that the audience understands what a CDFI is. So CDFI, we are a community development financial institution. So when you think about just by acronym, community development
right,
is first, financial institution is the latter. We are mostly nonprofit organizations, 501c3 designated by the U.S. Department of Treasury, but we work alongside your traditional for-profit banking institutions. And so under the CRA Act, banks have a requirement to touch communities in a certain way, and they're also scored and they're held accountable for the work that they do in the communities.
And CRA meaning Community
Reinvestment Act. I know. we get so used to our acronyms that we don't. So based on the Community Reinvestment Act. And so they have been challenged to do certain work in the community, but based on regulatory guidelines, just by right of being a for-profit banking institution, there are just things that they are not able to do. And so under the 501c3 CDFI arm, CDFIs act as a liaison to those traditional banks so that we can support them in meeting their CRA requirements. But they support us in meeting the needs of the community. So essentially, the banks are, in fact, concerned and thoughtful in how they get dollars to disparate communities, low to moderate income communities, which you'll also hear, LMI, BIPOC, you know, us and all of our acronyms, Black and Indigenous people of color. Most of us have a targeted population that's identified by our CDFI certification as to who we are mission to reach. And so Trufund is a mission-driven lender, 501c3 nonprofit, CDFI. And so again, you see the community development piece, financial institution, but you also hear mission driven. So different from most traditional institutions, while yes, we have to make prudent decisions, that is not always the sole thing that's at the forefront of the things that we do and how we serve our customer. We are really concerned with what impact will this loan have on the community. So if I'm looking at business owner A and I'm looking at giving them a $50,000, $100,000 loan, I want to know not only like your traditional institutions, are you going to be able to pay this back? Like, what is your repayment ability? But I want to know, you know, what community are you serving through this business? You know, what longer term impacts? You know, is this business going to spur economic and community development in an area that that needs it? Is this business located in a disinvested community, or what the federal government coins investment areas? And is this loan going to have longer impact versus just the issuance of the
actual
loan?
Business?
The issuance of the loan and the repayment. We really want to see communities start to thrive because one business owner was successful.
So are you creating jobs?
Definitely. Definitely. So, but even taking it a step beyond, you know, did this create jobs? You know, how many jobs did the business owner being able to secure this capital? How many did they retain? Because that's just as important as creating new jobs. We want to make sure that the community is still thriving. And then also, historically, business owners that are located and entrenched, invested in communities are going to hire from within.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that is your longer
community
term
development. Yeah.
economic and community development is if I save the business that's on the corner that has grown up, that may be second or third generation in this community,
Right.
they're going to be less likely to take the capital or the revenues that are generated and pull them out of the community. They're going to be more likely to invest that money back into the community. And it starts at the simplest ways. When you think about a business owner that's funding the Little League football team, those are the community members that are operating their businesses, and that spurs a spirit within the community, and it continues to just catch fire as a domino effect.
So which states does Trufund have, I guess, presence in as far as business owners? If they're in these states, then they should seek Trufund out.
So we are headquartered out of New York, serving the boroughs surrounding Manhattan, and then also upstate New York and northern New Jersey, which is where we're certified to cover in that particular state. We have offices across the Southeast and the Southwest in Texas, primarily Houston and Dallas is our primary targeted populations. In Louisiana, we are certified to cover the entire state of Louisiana, but we primarily operate out of New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and the Capital Region, as well as North and Central Louisiana, which is upward to Shreveport across to Monroe. We are certified to cover the entire state of Alabama, of course, primarily operating in the Big Five. We're here in Birmingham today. So shout out Birmingham. And then also a 10-county metropolitan area of Atlanta. So, and that is our primary certified targeted population. However, we do have certain products that are national products, as well as national platforms, such as our New Markets Tax Credit Platform, which is our first national platform under our subsidiary, Empowerment Reinvestment Fund. And so under that, we are able to service projects across the United States. And then also we have the Impact Developers Fund, which is a fund specifically around supporting real estate developers, minority real estate developers. And that is also a national platform. So although we have those states of certification, we do have certain products that allow us to have further reach outside of those states.
That's awesome. Now, the other way that Trufund has certainly stayed in my radar, y'all, is, again, not only just the extended presence and now national presence, but the programming. And I want to highlight the programming because I think that this is what distinguishes CDFIs from your regular traditional, big box brand banks. And the programming is what certifies them, in my mind, as being on the streets in the sense of trying to find business owners where they are. And Trufund, specifically here in Birmingham, has a track record of doing so much programming every year. I've partnered with Trufund in doing some of their training, so I'm a little partial, but they really and truly, to me, are out here doing the Lord's work when it comes to the variety of topics that they cover in free programming. So can you talk to us, particularly, I see where you guys have a lot of women-based programs throughout the year, but talk to me, give me a sample of some of the things that Trufund is doing as it relates to linking business owners with programming and technical experts.
Absolutely. So that is a platform of Trufund. We like to say we operate in the pillars of small business support. And so, of course, bread and butter is lending, because that is primarily what we are in existence to do, is get access to capital to small business owners. Business advisement and programming is essentially our second largest platform, and that's what you're speaking of. You've definitely been a gem of ours in this market, and actually really across, because due to COVID, we've been doing a lot of virtual, so you're getting an opportunity to support us and interface with business owners across our footprint. But we have what we consider our flagship programs here at Trufund. Now, that doesn't mean we're limited to doing these 5. But financial empowerment is, of course, at the forefront. And that's really centered around the building the financial and business acumen at that foundational space and making sure that business owners are ready to access capital.
Right.
So when you think about, what does it mean to say a capital ready small business owner, where we identify gaps in our triage of the business, because any business that comes through our pipeline for programming, we have a team on the ground that's really working with them, trying to understand exactly where they are. Are they growth stage? Are they looking to become more sustainable and viable? Is it a startup? And so once we understand what their needs are, we make sure that we place them in the right space.
And let's stop there, because you're not going to get that from a standard bank. Right. So I'm hearing wraparound services.
Absolutely.
Basically.
Absolutely.
If you're not bankable, capital ready, then by participating in the programs, and I certainly have experienced it, because I think one of the newest ones that I participated in was the certification, helping people walk through that self-certification process to the SBA. I don't know if it's still in beta or not, but it's fairly new that the SBA is doing. And so having that team of triage when you sign up is new. Is not, you're not going to experience that with a bank. And I would say, just even from that, not only are you being linked with a team that is trying to understand where your business is, as well as the programming, but now you're developing what we know is lacking in our community, which is banking relationships. Being able to say, okay, I can send an email to Kim or Kim's team if I have a question on this, or, I graduated from this particular course and now I feel that I'm bankable. I'm ready to apply for one of the loans that they were talking about. So I want to make sure that we pull that out of this conversation, because this is why CDFIs are the focus of funding now, because they're on the streets. They are doing those wraparound support services. They're connecting you with the money. And if your path of why involves needing to, get caught up on taxes, needing to have a business plan, needing to have all of these things, by attending programming from a CDFI like Trufund, you're getting yourself in the room, and then you're getting yourself in a position to get to the yes,
right,
as it relates to the money that you ultimately, that's the whole point of you being in business, is to be able to access money so that you can expand your business.
Absolutely. And then one of the things that I want us to maybe pause on for the audience is execution and implementation.
Okay.
You mentioned it, that most, if not all, of the services that we provide from the programmatic and business advisement side are, we tend to say free. But we want to be transparent with the business owners. It's not free. It's at no cost to them.
Right.
And so this is where we partner with either our bank partners, we have philanthropic partners, and we have corporate partners that they sponsor, they invest in the entrepreneurial community by investing in the CDFI first, and then the CDFI has the ability to put forth these various programs and business advisement. One of the other things we say when we say, okay, it's like the why, but this is the why not. Why were these businesses not able to access? So I want to elevate it's execution and implementation. So to the business owner that's listening, sitting in as many classes as you can, you've taken a first step.
Okay.
But it is literally a first step.
Right. Let's talk about it.
If you gain the knowledge and you don't execute.
Right.
And you don't implement.
Right.
You still find yourself behind the 8 ball in your ability to actually seek out or have the access that you need. And so we still saw that. Many business owners feel like, okay, well, I took class A or I took the class over here and I went over here and took a class. Why am I still not able to do the loan? And when we peel back the onion, we find that it is great that you took the first step. So we don't want to take that away, because that is absolutely a first investment that a business owner is making in their business. But we need you to execute and implement everything that you've learned. The class is the first piece. It does not automatically have you take the leap over to capital readiness. Right. I get the information, I execute on what I've been taught, I implement all of the the
Right.
things that I need to implement in my business, and then I'm in a better position. Still, there's no guarantees there, but it
Right.
definitely helps us
Right.
get closer to the end goal, as you stated, is access
Yeah.
to capital and all the things that access unlocks for the business owner. Or, as you spoke about one of our trainings where we really focus on getting business owners certified, whether it be with their local government, state government, or in particular, the federal government. But again, that's a first step.
Yes.
So you have the certification. The way I like to demonstrate that for my business owners is if you go to college and you get the degree and it sits on the shelf and you never market yourself now as a degreed individual, are you any different from the individual who didn't go to school at all?
Right.
And so when you gain access to all of this information and you've executed or you've gotten the certification, sitting in the training and even getting the certification does not guarantee you the contract.
It is the first step.
It's a first step.
It's very much a first step. It could be a solid first step because you're in the room. And I think that's an excellent point, Kim, is, we're exploring CDFIs. We've now identified for you that CDFIs is a really good, strong start because you're
Very
in the room.
Very strong.
And maybe the money's just right across, right across the table from you. But Kim has brought up a really great point that I've said before is it's only so much, classes and free 99 and all that stuff that you can do. If you're not locked in and committed to executing and implementing what you've learned, then you have actually wasted your own time. And so it does require for you to, even if that particular class, because I'll be transparent, the certification class, oh my goodness, you're learning about the certification class and there was an instructor there to walk you through the process, but you still have to have all your paperwork down. So I'm scrambling. Okay, I need my tax returns. I need So you have to. It's almost like you have to go into any training, particularly. Let's really talk about that because we are of the age of webinars and we're gonna train the heck out of you in these days and conference the heck out of you in these days and ages. So saying that you can't find the information, I don't think anyone's saying that
That's a no-go.
at this point. But it's really going to be going into that particular session with a strategy. And so what I mean by that is, for me, I should have went into that certification class already knowing that, hey, at the end of this class, I want to actually go ahead and submit my application, So another example would be if you choose, a class that Trufund has that's focusing on building your strategic plan or your business plan. Because you know that that's the goal of the course, then you need to create an actionable goal that you're going to get accomplished at the end of that course. Like, I want you to already go into this thing here that you've identified with a strategy that you're going to accomplish. And it could be because we all get it. Kim and I are both moms, wearing a mini crowns. So we are absolutely cognizant of the fact that you're likely not going to do every single solitary thing that course is saying. But what I want to challenge you with today, in linking up with an institution like Trufund, which, as I say, is a gem in the community just because they have the training and the money, is you want to actually come into that opportunity knowing what to ask for and creating that goal to get you closer to that. Because, no, nothing is guaranteed, but if you come in with a strategy and with, you might have 5 ducks and 2 of them in the row to be able to leverage the heck out of those 2 of them until you are able to come in even stronger the next training class or the next opportunity. Kim, I want to bring up a little bit more distinction between CDFIs and banks. In our prior episode, we had another CDFI represented, Sabre Finance, and we talked about AJ in that episode really got specific with credit scores and what they're able to do as a CDFI. And so we went viral with a couple of clips on TikTok surrounding bankability surrounding how do I qualify? Because I know that we've used a lot of words in this episode, and I know that someone's going to say, well, what credit score do I need? You know how we are. It's like, hey, cut direct.
Just give me the real.
Right, exactly. So I think that this is just inherently very different in understanding the difference between a CDFI and a regular big box bank. When it comes to flexibility on those things. So can you talk to me about what I know somebody going to put in the comments. So what credit score do I need to qualify? Go ahead.
So I'm about to rock the boat.
Rock it.
Because I understand they want the credit score. And I like to share with my business owners, I can give you a solid answer. And then that locks you into to that.
Okay.
So allow me to be the CDFI in its truest sense, which means I have autonomy. I have a little bit more flexibility than a traditional bank. And I can really look at a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
And so for that reason, we don't like to lock. But, for the audience, you say, okay, I need a number. You're likely with most CDFIs, you're looking at about 600 or greater, which is a significant gap between what is required to qualify for lending in your traditional bank.
Absolutely.
So that already gives you some flexibility there because
So somebody just hit pause and was like, email Kim.
If I've had a few issues and I cannot qualify for a bank, I at least know that maybe a CDFI can go a little bit lower than my traditional bank requirements. But it's not just your credit score. We, as we stated, we're very hands-on. We just recently did a study, and it was determined that Trufund spends at least 3 hours of hand-holding, and that's at the least. We had cases where it was 10 or 20, but really trying to understand a business and where you are. And so for that reason, we look at, what's your character look like? Okay, we all have the 5 C's. We all heard the 5 C's. I'm not going to go into teaching a class on the 5 C's, but character is really important. And, when you hear bankers, such as Trufund or CDFI, we say, don't wait until you need us to develop the relationship. What that does is that gives us an opportunity to really get to know your business. We know exactly what trajectory you're on. We know what you're trying to achieve. We know ahead of time about how much you're going to need when that will take place. If it's a 6 month down the road, I'm thinking if you're working on bidding on some contracts. And so what we also are able to do is provide a testament to the character of the business owner. Because we've spent a little more time with you. So if the credit score doesn't look the way it needs to look, but the other documentation looks the way it needs to look, or if there are some mitigants that we can help you put in place to get you to the yes, and we're willing to do that, and we also have the ability to do that. So again, CDFIs don't necessarily mean we're going to just be handing out money because the banks can't. We still have to be very prudent decision makers and good stewards over the investments that our banking partners, that our philanthropic partners, that the government has entrusted us with. So we definitely want to look at certain criteria, but we have the ability to really get entrenched in that. It's relational. It's not simply transactional. So you're not just plugging your information, and if you have a $5.99, because the threshold was 600, oh, I'm automatically out. Or if the threshold was 620 and I got a 619, I'm automatically out. It doesn't work that way with a CDFI because we are face to face. We're working with you. We understand your business owner. So the pulling of the credit is a part of our process. It's not the end all be all.
That is, oh my gosh, that is wonderful. And then what I also hear in that relational is that the investment is because you want that business to succeed.
Absolutely.
You know, you don't want to just tout, well, we lent billions of dollars in 2022 to Black businesses. Well, it sounds to me like CDFIs, particularly Trufund, are saying, and we want to lend another 8 billion more because they're still here. Because we all know that, especially in the startup phase, you start a business in 1 year and the percentages of how long they stay open goes down as you get closer to 5 years and 7 years. And so I think the opportunity here in really us diving into CDFIs and you listening to this episode and replaying it is we're giving you a strategy here, really, to of where to start, particularly if you are in those market areas that Kim has identified, but even from the national perspective, that you have everything you need to outline a strategy of where you want to go. Kim, how frequently do y'all do the programs? Are they around a certain time every year, or is there always a program going on? Talk to me about, like, if someone were watching this episode right now, which is October 2022, is that how do they go about finding out what programs are currently open for them?
Okay, so if you are in one of those market areas in New York, Louisiana, Texas, Alabama, or Georgia, we encourage you to go to our website at www.trufund.org, and you would learn all of the programs that we offer, which states, which cities we offer those programs in, and then also when they start. So currently in October, which just happens to be National Women's Small Business Month, we are right in the midst of our Women's Empowerment Program, which is a business development program targeted specifically to the unique needs of female business owners. We do a 3-tiered approach in that program. So there is the first tier, which is really honing in on foundational business acumen and principles. The second tier is understanding what your numbers are saying, but also understanding how to articulate to a potential funder or investor. So that pitch her really focuses in on, okay, do I understand what my business's value proposition is? What is a value proposition? And if I'm sitting in front of a panel of investors, or let's just say you make it to the Shark Tank.
Yeah, exactly.
What are they going to be looking for? Like, what do they want to hear me articulate about my business to really drive them to say, I want to invest my dollars in this space? The third tier of that program is what you mentioned earlier, is the Certify Her. So it's really, we zero in on the various certifications that are available to female entrepreneurs. So you mentioned the SBA. It is the WOSB, Woman-Owned Small Business. Having that certification can open up a world of opportunity, and having really any of the, like the 8A certification through the federal government also opens up a world of opportunity. But it's understanding not even just here are the steps. These are some of the certifications that are available to you. Here's the steps that you go by to achieve that certification status, but then what do you do after you're certified?
And I think that course is very, it's very helpful. Like I said, don't be like me. Don't be like me and add it on your calendar because you need to get certified, but you're not ready to do the work. You know what I mean? Because believe it or not, it is a lot of documentation. That's not a myth. It's a lot of documentation, but another strategy that you may identify in this conversation is we know that the current Biden administration has challenged itself with increasing the spend of minority-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses, and anything federal government, local government, state government. They're going to look at certifications. Do they do business with you without the certification? Yes. However, if you're competing with another company that has certifications, and in some cases, if you don't have it, you can't really apply for some of these things or put in bids. So the certify, I can speak specifically to something that, y'all can hold me to. I need to be accountable because TMB needs to be certified by the end of the year.
TMB certified. Yes.
Because Lord knows I need to do it. Kim, there's a couple of things that I want to pull out before we close up here, just because I want to make sure that we have created not only a place of information from our listeners, but also a safe space. I think that we've done a really good job at identifying that CDFIs have that great flexibility. We've kind of defined a credit score, even though we know that that's not typically how CDFIs work. But I want, in your experience, like over 20 plus years, it sounds like, in the space of small business economic development and in the triage that Trufund does, can you give me some examples of some of the challenges that you've seen business owners have when it comes to financial, like lack of understanding on blah, just some of the common things that you'll see that business owners come in not knowing or not having, and then how you've overcome those. Like, what steps did you do to overcome those?
So we're going to have to get into this one.
That's right. We need to get into it.
That we absolutely have to get into.
Yeah.
So I think top of mind, we always see a lot of credit issues. And we understand that, there may be different reasons for that. And I can, a little bit later, I'll use myself as an example in full transparency. But we see the credit issues. We see that there's been mismanagement or misappropriation of funding. So a business looks one way on paper, but in reality, they may have been $100,000 or $200,000 business, but on taxes, white paper right, green paper right.
Okay, then.
Okay, so on the white
the taxes,
paper,
what you do? Write everything off. Okay,
and again, when you think about, it's like the miseducation of. We're going to just say of.
Yeah.
We have historically and culturally been miseducated.
Okay.
So even though we have various professionals that are in a space, they are in fact advising their clients in the wrong manner. And so while you may save a dime on the front end, if your goal is really to grow and stand up a viable company, at some point along the trajectory of that growth, you are likely to need an infusion of capital, whether that be equity, debt capital, whatever it is. And anyone, whether it's an investor, they're going to want to see how you manage your money. And if they pull those tax returns and it's showing I made $40,000 last year, but now you're asking for an amount that clearly a $40,000 business cannot cash flow, it's too late at that point to say, no, but I really did.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, even at a CDFI, we have to trust what is on your documentation, not solely what's coming out of your mouth. And that I see hurt businesses probably more than anything, especially in our Black and Brown communities. The other piece is just not having financial documentation. So maybe hiring a bookkeeper, but not having someone that's producing your quarterly P&Ls or your annual P&Ls.
Y'all would think I'm paying these people to say this.
Your cash flow statements and
but
your balance sheets.
Yes.
Yeah. So, not having it. So we hadn't even gotten to the understanding what those documents are saying. Oftentimes we'll come across a business that doesn't have it. And the mitigant there is we work very, very closely with other community organizations, also other government organizations like the SBDC, because what we're not able to do is we can't support the creation of financial documents that we're then going to use to give your
That's
loan.
a good point.
Yeah. So we have to outsource that piece. And that's where those relationships with even financial advisors such as yourself or accountants such as yourself come in handy where we can say, hey, Talibah, I've got a client, I'm going to send them over to you. Or, hey, whomever at the SBDC or any other community organization that focuses in on the creation of that documentation that's needed to support the loan, then we make those referrals out. Those referrals then come back in. So we have seen business owners that come to us, we take them through the triage, we identify those core needs. We also support them by saying, these are the individuals. Now, mind you, we don't tell you you have to go to this person. But we may have a roster of business owners that support a certain industry sector. Or say, if it's marketing that they need, we may give them a roster of vetted marketers. And it's their choice who they choose. But then they have the opportunity to get those things in order and then circle back to us. Now, again, execution, implementation. When you go through that triage with your CDFI and we identify the things that you need to do it. Go do it.
You got to do it. Well, and I think that's, again, like it's a conversation that we have to have, and you've heard it all before. And so, but I'm a firm believer is that, like, maybe if somebody else says it, or like if it catches, we all have our moods or
different ways.
Like, maybe you receive it today and it won't bounce off of you today. In hearing the same stuff, I know that you've heard this before, but it is my personal mission to keep saying it, to keep doing it, because every day we're having successes with business owners that are locking it in and saying, this is what I want to do. And then they're getting the funding that they need. And so it is very much possible. I wanted to create that safe space and highlight the types of businesses that Trufund has worked with and that Kim has worked with over the years, because we all have to start somewhere. And I think we've pretty much proven that CDFIs are a great option for if you're somewhere maybe a little bit off to the side. Like, it's not perfect. It's not cookie cutter. There's not very much cookie cutter about Black businesses anyway. But absolutely, we have provided so much in this conversation for you today, to replay and develop a strategy. That's what it's all about. Your business becoming Black and bankable, your business being able to not only access the money, because that's what most people think when I say bankable, is that, we're talking about you walking into literally a bank and being able to get money.
To do anything, yeah.
It is a holistic thing. As I've said before, you want to go into the money opportunity with a strategy. But before we can let you go into the money opportunity, you have to do those things that Kim has identified. She's seen over the years, that we've both seen, and that we know that the other side of that is that business obtaining that capital, getting that capital injection, developing the community that they're in by hiring folks, or just simply just contributing to your community, however you contribute as an entrepreneur. So we're going to wrap up this episode with my sincerest gratitude for Kim, the individual, as well as for Trufund for loaning us, Kim, on their time today, to allow this behind the scenes of a CDFI. And as I mentioned, I'm a little partial, but a CDFI who I think is absolutely getting it right when it comes to the programming, when it comes to just being out there on the streets and collaborating with subject matter experts like myself to get business owners to what they need. And that's being bankable and being able to get that money. Kim, are there any final thoughts that you would like to share with the audience?
There are.
Okay.
So how about you tell me how much time we have, and then I'll jump
you
into
go. Hey, go ahead. I'm all about good content now.
So as I was listening to you, there were a couple of things that did come to mind. The differentiators between CDFIs, and I want to make sure that the audience understand that even within the CDFI landscape, there's no one size fits all.
Okay.
So even doing your homework around the best CDFI for your business. So for example, Trufund is not traditionally known for working with startups.
Okay. That's very good to point out.
There may be other CDFIs that is their sweet spot. We primarily work with businesses that are in growth phase. So you've been in business at least a year to 18 months. You're already generating revenue.
Okay.
And you're looking to access advisement and capital to go to the next level.
So scaling.
Yeah, absolutely. But there are CDFIs out there that are specifically
for startups. That's a really good
startup.
point.
So doing your research and making sure that you identify the CDFI that's the best fit for the phase that you're in.
That's really good.
And for the products that they offer. Because all CDFIs are, again, not one size fits all. We don't offer the exact same products. There's various interest rates. There's various internal expertise.
Okay.
So definitely wanted to bring that. And all CDFIs don't necessarily even utilize the same process. And so I wanted to just kind of go back to the mitigant of things that we do.
Okay.
One of the things that Trufund has identified is the need to support the business and really hold their hand, not just to get them to the capital, but through to the other side. And so what that looks like for us is pre-business advisement.
Okay.
That is during the process. That is holding your hand through gathering the documentation, through going to the referral source and then coming back. But there's always the post because it's like, do you really know what to do when you get your hands on those dollars?
Now that you got the
make
money.
sure that you don't find yourself in trouble down the road. And so we don't just do a loan and then just drop the client off.
That's awesome.
You'll hear our tagline is more than a loan, it's an opportunity. And what that really speaks to is it's an opportunity to really develop a relationship with your banking partner or your CDFI partner. We have clients that they become bankable, because that's always our goal. So when
Right.
we talk about how we work with our big bank partners,
Mhm.
the goal is always for the banks is they don't want to just say no. So the CDFI landscape offers them another opportunity. So it's not
That's
right
very
now,
good to point
but
out.
you have an opportunity to
Yeah.
go here and they can take a second look. But the goal is always on the other end for us to send them back to the bank, because we want
That's really good to
all of
point
our
out.
businesses
Yeah.
to be able to operate in mainstream.
And get the larger dollar amount
Absolutely.
loans. That's what that means. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
the role, if a CDFI has done its job well, we have created bankable CEOs
Okay.
that are able to go back
Okay.
and get those dollars. I didn't want to just end
Yeah. That's very
with
good to
that,
pull out.
just to
Absolutely.
pull those out, to just really encourage. Take a look at the various CDFIs that are in your area. If you're hearing this, and we know this is going viral as
That's
well.
right.
So if you're
Yeah.
hearing this and you're not in one of Trufund's targeted populations, there are CDFIs all over the United States.
And isn't it CDFI.org? What is the website?
CDFI Fund. You can go to cdfifund.gov.
Okay.
And you can take a look at all of the various CDFIs that might be in your area.
Okay.
Strategy, you heard that word
Yeah,
numerous
absolutely.
times. So strategize, do your research, find the CDFIs that are in your area and start building those relationships before you need us.
Yeah. I love that. And again, I know that we've created bankable CEOs just in unlocking the access that we've unlocked in this episode today. So thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to check out all the prior episodes, because if you love this one, you got to love all the other ones. And make sure you share this with your business bestie. And we'll see you next time.